Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
We welcome one and all to the Borough of Manhattan Community College, where we're celebrating throughout the month righteous, committed, informed women who've changed the course of history. Today is a very special day because we've gathered to celebrate one distinguished woman who helped to change the course of history in many ways. She was an activist, a champion for educational rights, for women's rights, for housing, for social justice. She was born on March the 17th, 1932, in Montgomery, Alabama. And for close to 93 years, she committed her life to the forward progress of people who were on the periphery of society, who've been pushed to the side, who've been marginalized, who have been oppressed. Her name was Hazel Nell Dukes. And so, when she passed away last year, March the 1st, 2025, our leader and president, Dr. Anthony E. Monroe, wanted to pay honor and celebrate her life and her impact and the work that she did here, not only in New York City, but across the country. And so, in May of last year, we had a memorial, but he said, I want to be able to do something more impactful. We'd like to start a series of conversations, a lecture series, in her honor, to preserve not only her name, but her work and her impact, to empower the next generation of leaders and servants to take up the mantle, to dream a world of endless opportunities, and to use the power of education to dismantle systems of inequality. And so we're here today to celebrate her life, to reflect on what she did, but more importantly, as students, as people of goodwill, and conscious to use the work and her life to continue to move forward, to turn the world upside down and right side up. So we're glad that you're here. We're hoping that you've come with listening ears. And now it is my sheer delight to welcome the president of our institution, who came up with this concept, whose vision guides this institution every day. Please join me in welcoming to the podium President Anthony E. Monroe.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to the members of the BMCC community, distinguished and honored guests, and friends. It is a profound honor and privilege to welcome you to Borough of Manhattan Community College for a truly historic occasion, the inaugural Dr. Hazel N. Dukes Lecture Series in Leadership and Social Justice. We gather today during Women's Her Story Month, a time dedicated to celebrating the indomitable spirit and contributions of women. For our community, this month carries a unique, almost symbolic weight. Dr. Hazel Dukes, a giant of the civil rights movement and a tireless champion for our institution, was born, as you heard, on March 17, 1932, and transitioned from this life on March 1st, 2025, a mere year ago. That her life's journey began and concluded within this specific month reinforces her legacy as a definitive figure in the her story of our nation. While her voice may be silenced, her mission remains our mandate. And today we launch this series to ensure her advocacy for the marginalized continues to echo through these halls and beyond. The purpose of this lecture series is to bridge the gap between academic inquiry and transformative social action. Dr. Dukes believed that education was not a privilege, but a fundamental right, the key to breaking cycles of poverty and discrimination. At BMCC, we see the fruits of such equity every single day in the brilliance of our students and alumni. We see it in the powerful voice of Stephanie Pacheco, who you will hear from later today. She was the 2024-2025 National Youth Poet Laureate and a student of BMCC, whose artistry reflects the resilience of Dr. Dukes, so admired. We see it in the leadership of Ms. Masinga, our Student Government Association president, who carries forward the torch of student advocacy. When we invest in equity, we empower leaders like Stephanie and Ms. Masinga to redefine what is possible in our city and in our world. It is only fitting that our inaugural lecture, we are joined by a leader who embodies the very intersection of law, policy, and social justice that Dr. Dukes navigated so masterfully. Jennifer Jones Austin, CEO of the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, is a visionary whose career has been defined by dismantling structural racism and strengthening the disenfranchised. From her groundbreaking work as the chair of the New York City Racial Justice Commission to her leadership in securing monumental changes in social policy, Ms. Austin understands the profound links between race, poverty, and the role of faith in justice. Her presence here today signifies a contribution of the work, and a continuation of the work Dr. Dukes began, a commitment to speaking truth to power and ensuring that the dream of a just society becomes a reality for all. As we embark on this new series, we are deeply grateful to Professor James Blake, Dr. Rashad Hoggard, and Vice President Karen Wilson Stevenson, whose dedication and vision were instrumental in bringing this event to life. Together, they have helped to honor Dr. Dukes' enduring legacy by creating a platform that inspires leadership and champions social justice. Let this lecture series be a beacon of hope and a call to action for everyone, reminding us that through education, perseverance, and unity, we can continue to build a more just and equitable society. Thank you for being here today, and please enjoy the program.
Thank you, President Monroe. We're now going to ask that Professor James Blake come forward with some reflections for all of us.
Good afternoon. I've asked God to guide my mind and direct my comments and take me where He wants me to be. And I know He wants me to be brief. It is an honor to be here and to talk about Hazel Dukes. You know, when I was a young man, one of the most exciting periods in school, in junior high school, was who was going to fight in the schoolyard. Who was the tough? Reputations were made and reputations were destroyed in the schoolyard. So with the macho attitude, we always talked about this guy can beat this guy and this guy can beat that guy. But little did we know, but we began to realize there were some girls that you had to watch out as well. Hazel Duke was that type of person. I titled my comments as, "This sister is no joke. She's not to be messed with." That was the legacy of her life. She was no joke. She had to, you don't mess with her. Sometimes, you think that because it's a woman, she can't fight. But let me give you some hints, brothers. If you go up against a woman and she throws her hands up and she's ready to duke, Hazel, you better find someplace else to go, because if she whipped you, you had to leave the neighborhood. I just simply wanted to say, because it's already been said about Hazel Dukes, I just want to say this. She was fierce. She was fearless. And she was focused. Say it after me. Fear, fierce. I can't hear you. Fierce, fearless, and focused. That took us as a people a long way. When she left Montgomery, and I can tell you this, something is going on in the water in Montgomery. Rosa Parks, Montgomery. Claudette Colvin, Montgomery. Hazel Dukes, Montgomery. The women who organized the boycott were women at the Alabama State College who helped put that boycott together. And then Rosa Parks lived right close to Hazel Dukes, and Hazel Dukes said she can look out her front porch and see Rosa Parks' front porch. There were some bad women. They were not to be messed with. Let me tell you in the words of Hazel Dukes, her mouth was powerful. Her mouth was powerful. If you ever been into a situation where she had to advocate, you wanted to have Hazel Dukes there with you. And this is what she said in her own words. She said, I'm a fighter. I would get into their face and tell them off. I was never a meek, mild woman or a little girl, and my daddy's little girl. You mess with me, I got you with my mouth. I cut you without never picking up a weapon. Yes, she was fierce, she was fearless, and she was focused. At 90, she was working very hard to implement a Black Studies curriculum for public schools. She went to, and this is at 90, she went to schools in District 7 and schools in District 29. She met with the students. She talked to them about the civil rights movement. She talked to them about people that they read about that she knew and she can give personal insights to. She was doing this at 90. She even got up and did a step show with them. Okay? That's the enthusiasm and the commitment at 90 that she had. She told me once at a breakfast in Harlem that the president had arranged, and she reached over to me. She said, Professor Blake, I'm working with your son. I said, that's wonderful, because you work with me. Now you're working with my son. She said, yeah. I said, you might be working with my grandson. Where you going? But she was that type of committed person. So I would say to you that we were blessed to have her, and she was such a wonderful addition and person in the struggle. She took Nassau County. She took over that place. The housing discrimination in Nassau County. This is a little country girl coming to New York. She took over Nassau County. She became so many things. I can't read all the things she did in Nassau County. You can do the research. Then she went on to Harlem. Harlem was a cliquish kind of neighborhood. She broke that clique, and before you know it, all of the leaders in Harlem were listening to Hazel Dukes. She spoke to governors and presidents and mayors all over this country. They listened to Hazel Dukes. And we're honored and we're so happy that our president is keeping her alive with these lecture series, because our students should know this. So again, I see red and white is in the air. When I was at North Carolina Central, we used to sing a song, over my head, red and white is in the air. There must be a what? Delta somewhere. Hazel was a Delta, and a very proud one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Blake, for your reflection. He mentioned one of the organizations that Dr. Dukes was affiliated with a long time, the Northern Manhattan chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. If there are members who are here, would you please stand, of Delta Sigma Theta? And thanks for joining us. There are members of the NAACP, where she served for many years, almost 5 decades, as the state president of the NAACP. We thank you for joining. She was also a founding member of the Metro Manhattan chapter of the Links Incorporated. If there are members of the Links Incorporated who are here and wish to stand or wave your hand, you can do so. We thank you. These are various groups that Dr. Dukes committed to her life, to service and activism. She believed very deeply and firmly that doing for others is just the rent we have to pay for living on earth. That's a motto we all should embody and abide by. But let me just say this as well. Professor Blake mentioned Rosa Parks. A little known history, her story fact, is that Rosa Parks was the Sunday school teacher for Hazel Dukes in the 1930s and early 40s in Montgomery, Alabama. It doesn't matter where you start. Your start is not the defining moment. It's where you have the courage to move forward and go. And so thank you for that reminder. Now, it's my delight to bring to the podium our Poet Laureate for 2024-2025, Ms. Stephanie Panchoja. Please come forward.
Hi. Whoa. Hi, BMCC. What a homecoming. We cannot go this long without seeing each other ever again. I am so honored to be here. My name is Stephanie Pacheco. I have the honor of being your 8th U.S. National Youth Poet Laureate. And I'm a BMCC girl. I am. So it is so good to be here honoring the life of our now ancestor, Dr. Hazel Dukes. And to celebrate her life, I have some poems, as I would. I would hope I have poems. The first of which is also, you know, in honor of Women's History Month, of course. I want to talk about intersectionality. I recently wrote a poem uplifting the Black women and girls in my life, and this is that poem. Have any of you ever watched poetry be performed before? Okay, good, you're seasoned. That's important, that's important. Just as a reminder, if you hear something you like, don't be quiet. That's so boring. If you hear something you like, snap. Let me hear you snap. That's serene. You see that? Let me hear you go, right? If you hear anything that resonates, that you relate to, if you like, this made me think about my mama, let me know by snapping and going, like you eating a good plate of food. Okay. This poem is called For the Girls. The girls in my life are made out of stardust and moonshine. Kanekalon braids and acrylic nails, slick-edged, slick-mouthed girls who talk back. Girls who nod but don't bow. Bite hard on hands that try to cover their mouths. Loud girls who clack their gold bangles in the face of what tries to silence them. This is for the girls making homes out of pillaged lands, made of olive branches and dry seasons, golden soil and sunny skies. The girls who carry countries on their hip and raise their prayers to the sky. Girls who sit still but don't listen. Oh, and you know how girls are. Always praying, always feeding babies even when they are not their own. I come from hood gods, neighborhood caretakers, mothers who make villages out of pieces of their own body. This is for the daughters raised by famine. Starving bellies looking to the sky. This is for the girls building their girlhood from scratch. Girls who handpick their lovers fiercely and unashamed. For the girls who dye their hair the color of their love. For the girls with fitted caps and the girls who love girls with fitted caps. This is for the femme queens. For the girls who talk with their hands and lead with their hearts. I'm just a girl. So I carry my lip gloss next to my shotgun in my dainty purse. I'm just a girl, so I don't die easy. So girls, when they try to break your body or your spirit in two, if they try to bury the fruit of your olive branches or pull your body from the sky, remind them to never forget their maker. This is for every single one of us who look death in the face and say no. Because you know girls always trying to stay alive, always finding a way to live forever. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. We have one more. Thank you so much. PMCC's family, I feel so good. We're talking about leadership and social justice and being bold enough to imagine worlds that we haven't seen yet. And right now, I've been doing a lot of dreaming because the city that I look at these days is not the one that I know, is not the one that raised me. The city that I'm from celebrates everybody who is Black and immigrant and woman and femme and queer and trans and other. And that is the city that I still dream of. And this poem is exactly that. I'm from the Bronx. Who's from the, right, thank you. I'm from the Bronx, and being in my neighborhood taught me how to dream, taught me how to advocate and be bold enough to think of something better for all of us. And this is that poem. Every time that somebody tried to tell me who I was because of where I am from, I wish I could have given them this poem in response. Right. Field trips called for a walk to the bodega the morning of. Demanded a bacon, egg, and cheese of my $5, said, we gon' eat before we go. To the Bronx Zoo, always on the D train, always on Wednesdays, always free entry. The train was us hood kids' magic vessel into Wonderland. We made steel poles our enchanted forest, wished upon the stars of its lights, and tapped our feet to the sound of the underground roar. We say, the most Bronx trip you could attend was the Bronx Zoo, was the one that was cheapest for the school budget, was the one that all of our mommies could afford, was the other place where caged beings live. Say, the mark of nativity is watching other things in capture, is being a witness to the cage, is celebrating the fact that at least we voyage together. Say, we dream of home too. I say I'm from New York, and I mean, I've been going to the same braiding shop on Fordham since I was 11. I found the rhythm of fingers twirling my hair into soil and blossom and named it my favorite beat. I say I'm from New York, and I mean, I recite Hey Ma by Cameron and Dile al Amor by Aventura in my sleep. I mean, I dream of song. These be the gospel tunes that made Block aunties and tias jump up in praise. I mean, La Pompa, or the fire hydrant, was our baptism, and these streets are my church. I say I began to count the pigeons, how they became holy in my chest too. You black-winged angel, you remind us all of flight. I mean, we dance to anything. The no music clap applies to all situations. It fills the void of disremembering. I say light feet, and we stomp hard, and we don't stay still. I say I'm from New York, and I mean, my high school didn't have a gym or an auditorium or a first week ritual that didn't involve a memorial. I mean, they keep trying to shut down my library to build a precinct in its place. I mean, I learned my poverty by learning other people's wealth. I say underfunded. I say we hungry. I say I am song. I say concrete palace. I say my mother built this. I say my people are buried here, so it must be mine. I say I hold these bodies like the ground does. And I mean, I'm gonna make it home, mama. I mean, this city won't swallow me. I mean, this country can't pick me from its teeth. I mean, gentrifiers better make room for us. I mean, we gon' eat before we go. I mean, we coming. I mean, we here. I mean, if these city lights are our stars, then we're not too far from them at all. I mean, if the pigeons can fly, then I can too. I say we black and brown and poor and trans and queer, we're eternal. We build, so we burn. It is cultural practice to refuse to die. Thank you. Thank you.
She could have kept going, right? Absolutely amazing, phenomenal. It is a cultural practice to refuse to die. Thank you. Let's show her some more love. Our poet laureate. One of the things she said was leading with hearts. Not only did Hazel Dukes do that, but I want Dr. Hazel Dukes do that for all of her life. But today, March 10th, since 1913, I know that's the year Delta Sigma Theta was founded, but March 10th, 1913 has been known as Harriet Tubman Day. For all who are here, who are studying women throughout the course of history, she transitioned, she died on this day, 1913. But the impact that she made in moving an enslaved people to freedom is the moral compass for so many people today. She led with her heart. Thank you for reminding us of so many wonderful things, Stephanie. Thank you. Now we're going to ask that our sister president of the SGA, that Singa Masinga, come forward and introduce our speaker, our keynote, inaugural Dr. Hazel N. Dukes lecturer.
Good afternoon to our distinguished guest, beloved faculty, honored family members, and my fellow students. My name is Ntabiseng Masinga, and I'm deeply humbled and honored to stand before you today as your student government president. I have to be honest, standing here right now, I feel like I should be the one taking notes instead of giving an introduction. Because the woman we're about to hear from, she did not just study leadership, she defined it. She wrote a book about it, literally multiple books. A fourth-generation leader of faith and social justice, Jennifer Jones Austin fights for equity. As CEO of the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, an anti-poverty policy and advocacy organization with 170 member agencies and faith partners, she has led and secured monumental changes in society policy to strengthen and empower the disenfranchised, and marginalized. Jennifer brings to her work a profound understanding of the link between race, poverty, law, and social policy in America, and the role religion plays. Prior to joining FPWA, Ms. Joan Austin served as Senior Vice President of the United Way of New York City, the City of New York's first family service coordinator, Deputy Commissioner of the NYC Administration for Children's Services, Civil Rights Deputy Bureau Chief of Attorney General Elliot Spritzer, and Vice President of Learn Now Edison Schools. Ms. Jones chairs the NYC Racial Justice Commission, the first of its kind in the nation, created to develop pilot proposals to revise the city's charter to dismantle structural racism in government functions and ensure equity for Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color. She has chaired several other influential boards and commissions, including the mayoral transition for Bill de Blasio, the NYC Procurement Policy Board, the NYC Board of Correction, where she presided over promulgation of rules to end solitary confinement, the NYS Supermarket Commission, and the Community Engagement for Brooklyn District Attorney Gonzalez Justice 2022 initiative. She was a lead advisor for the NYPD Reform and Reinvention Collaborative and a member of the statewide COVID-19 Roll Up Your Sleeve Task Force, created to ensure vaccine information and equitable access in Black and Brown communities. She currently serves as a vice president of the Board of Nation Action Network, member of the Frederick Center for Social Justice Advisory Board, and member of the Center for Law Brain and Behavior Advisory Board at Harvard University. She is also the scholar in residence at Knox College and Alliance Theological Seminary Center for Racial Reconciliation. Jennifer co-hosts WBSL Open Line Guest Host Weekly, the nationally syndicated radio program, Keeping It Real with Rev. Al Sharpston, and appears frequently on the cable show Brooklyn Survey. She is a returning guest and coordinator on the Karen Hunter Show. Jennifer Jones Austin is the author of Consider It Pure Joy, described as a story that, if not lived, would make a great novel. It is the harrowing account of her long battle with a sudden life-threatening illness and power of faith and community to transform desperation into joy. She is the editor of God in the Ghetto, a poetic word revisited the release of her father, William Augustus Jones Jr., seminal work deconstructing the system of racism, capitalism, and multilateralism, all working in concert to continually oppose people of color. Jennifer is a graduate of the Fordham University School of Law, the New York University Robert F. Wagner Graduate School of Public Service, and Rogers University, a recipient of numerous awards and recognitions, including 2 honorary doctorates. She considers the 4 honors bestowed upon her by the 3 alma maters especially significant. Jennifer has 2 children and resides in Brooklyn, New York, with her husband. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with immense gratitude the CEO of FPWA, Jennifer Jones Austin.
She is indeed a tremendous blessing. But she doesn't follow instructions because I said to her, keep it short. And she kept it long. I will say that I actually now have 3 honorary doctorates, and maybe I'm in the hunt for a 4th. Little teasing. I'm very happy to be here this afternoon, and I want you all to know that my heart is very full. From the moment that I walked into the doors of BMCC, when I walked into the lobby, when I walked into this auditorium, down the steps of this auditorium, I was just presented, given so much love. Love abounds in this place. And I know, I have this feeling, and I am really, really good when it comes to discerning people and environments, that this love attends this space, this place, at all times. Y'all aren't just showing off for me. Is that fair, President Monroe? A lot of love. Blessings, everybody. Let me say Happy Women's Herstory Month. Now I can say Happy Harriet Tubman Day. Didn't know that this was the day that we salute Harriet Tubman. Need to do a little better with that. And as I learned just this morning from one of my sisters at about 4:30 in the morning, when she decided to call me, she could have waited until 6 a.m., but she decided to call me at 4:30. It's kind of what we do. But I just wasn't having it this morning. She called. I didn't pick it up, and then she called again. I didn't pick up the phone, and then she called a 3rd time, and I was like, what's going on? And she said, Happy National Day of Rest for Black women. I was like, well, I'm not getting any rest when you're calling me at 4:30. Who knew? Who knew in this room that today is the National Day of Rest for Black women, March 10th? It's a day when Black women are encouraged to engage in activities promoting well-being, which includes, I was happy to learn as I read about it, the celebration of Black women's achievements. So being here today, some of you may be thinking, oh, maybe I'm supposed to be at home resting. No, being here today is actually living into and feeding the spirit of the National Black Day of Rest for women, Black women. So come on, give that day a hand. So, President Monroe, Dr. Hoggard, I want to thank you for bestowing upon me what is for me an inestimable honor to be able to serve as the inaugural speaker for this, the first Hazel N. Dukes lecture series on leadership and social justice. I want to tell you that since receiving the invitation, I want you all to appreciate this. I speak a lot publicly, but I still get very nervous when I do so. And receiving this invitation made me very, very, very nervous. I was filled with a range of emotions, from nostalgia to exhilaration and anxiety, right? When you are given the gift, the honor of helping to remember someone as great as Hazel Dukes, you know that no matter how much you prepare, all that you do, there's a good chance you're going to come up short. So I'm going to ask for your prayers, that you appreciate that I'm going to do the best that I can, and that you just treat me with kindness. Fair? Now, I think it's fitting that she be recognized in this way by BMCC at this tremendous educational institution, because education of the community, as has been intimated by those who've come before me, was at the heart, the core of everything Hazel Neal Dukes stood for, what she fought for. She understood that education was not only essential, but transformational, especially in the lives of children and adults challenged by structural and systemic racism, and complementing economic inequality. As I look out on all those who are gathered here, I am humbled because I understand that, your presence is not about me, it's about her. But I also appreciate when I look and I see friends, family, mentors, colleagues, many of whom are more than qualified to stand here and deliver the inaugural Hazel N. Dukes lecture, I can't help but be humbled. I want you to know that as I was preparing, I kept thinking to myself, why me? Why am I so fortunate to have this experience, to have this blessing? So many of us who were here knew her and loved her and cherished her deeply. So many of us were privileged to call her Ma Dukes. So many sat at her feet and drank from her well and have story after story about her to tell. But as Ma Dukes would have admonished me, no time for wasting, no time for tarrying, wondering why me. She would have told me to just lean in and do what she taught me and countless others to do. Say the things that need be said, especially in this moment in our lifetimes. So I'm just going to do that. Say the things that need be said, but not before I say just a bit more about her. Hazel Dukes loved her God and loved her people. Her family was first, and her beloved NAACP, Delta Sigma Theta, and Links, church community, family, and friends, all were close seconds. Everybody was close seconds. She walked in her power, as though on assignment from God, doing the work that she was called and purposed to do. She embraced her assignment, fighting until her death for civil and educational rights. Fearing no one but God, Ma Dukes blazed a trail for herself, yet wide enough for us all to journey alongside her. She was elegant, and Professor Blakes backed me up on this. Inelegant, if the situation warranted such. Am I right? Can I get an amen on that? She never left anyone behind, and she was loyal, almost to a fault. All in all, she was a justice warrior leader of the Wakanda type, a woman king of the Dahomey type. Indeed, Dr. Dukes was the full embodiment of spirit and action, just like the words of Anna Julia Cooper, an educator who was the first Black woman to earn a PhD from the University of Paris at Sorbonne. Anna Julia Cooper emphatically declared, "Only the Black woman can say, when and where I enter in the quiet, undisputed dignity of my womanhood, without suing or special patronage, then and there the whole race enters with me." When Dr. Dukes entered the room, any room, she brought the whole race, the human race, with her. She commanded respect, nothing less for herself, and she received it. She'd earned it, and she demanded more for her community. An attempt to sum up Dr. Dukes' impact on my life and on the lives of countless others throughout this nation. Any attempt would be futile, for her impact was vast, and it still is unfolding. So while I can't sum up her impact, what I can do in this moment is honor and evidence her impact by doing as she taught us. As Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley says, by being a better ancestor than descendant. A better ancestor than descendant. Don't play politics with our children and their education. That's what Dr. Dukes said. That's how she responded when asked her thoughts about mayoral control of New York City schools several years ago. Don't play politics with our children and their education. Dr. Dukes didn't hold back when it came to children and their education. For her, education and opportunity, education and mobility, education and civility and humanity, education and freedom go hand in hand. And she was right. Education breeds freedom. fosters freedom. In her own words, education can deliver you out of poverty and bring you into another sphere of respect, and it changes lives. She knew well that a well-educated child of color would mature into an educated youth and ultimately adult, capable of breaking free from poverty and economic insecurity and other limitations placed on them. And that's why she warned electeds, elected officials, and elected hopefuls, don't play politics with our children and their education. Her contemporaries in the civil rights movement understood the same. My father, the late Reverend Dr. William Augustus Jones, Jr., a comrade of hers, thank you. He was a comrade of hers and of Dr. King. He served as president of the New York chapter of Dr. King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference and local and national president of its Operation Breadbasket, which was its economic justice arm. Daddy would admonish his 4 children to gain knowledge and gain power. Gain knowledge, gain power is what he would tell us. He understood that the most powerful tool that Black Americans have when fighting injustice is knowledge. That the greatest threat to those who hold economic and political power is the attainment of knowledge by those from whom such power has been systemically withheld. Dr. King understood as well. He made clear the nexus between knowledge and power when he said, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Education must enable one to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the true from the false, the real from the unreal, and the facts from the fiction. Malcolm X as well when he said simply, learn to see, listen, and think for yourself. Without education, you're not going anywhere in this world. He understood that education is essential for individual and communal development, and that without education, people are more likely to live perennially under oppressive and manipulative regimes. They and many other social justice leaders of their time understood the direct and consequential relationship of knowledge to power, that acquiring knowledge is essential for enlightenment, engagement, and empowerment, especially for people who systemically have been denied both knowledge and power. This is why some of the most consequential speech-making during the civil rights movement occurred in houses of worship, where leaders spoke frequently and directly to Black Americans and provided them with world-class educations about issues plaguing our communities, social and economic issues and their root causes, steeped in structural, systemic, and institutional racism and deprivation. At these gatherings, they provided information supported with data about the plight of Blacks in America, and they provided research-based strategies and data-driven strategies for how to overcome through community organizing, mobilization, and action. They emphasized education as necessary for achieving liberation and ultimately freedom. To make it plain, they understood and wanted the community to understand, too, that education is the most powerful weapon for combating inequity and injustice in all its forms. As it goes, those intent on upholding inequity and injustice understand, too. This is why still today, even with the 1954 Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education, making education segregation illegal, United States public schools remain largely segregated by race and socioeconomic status, and why school districts with students of color predominantly receive $23 billion less in funding than predominantly white schools. $23 billion less, approximately $2,200 less per student per year. Why still today, Black children's ability to read and write and do basic math, skills necessary for gaining knowledge and power, is significantly curtailed. Across the nation, today, only 14% of Black eighth graders are proficient in reading, and only 13% are proficient in math. Yes, the high school graduation gap between blacks and whites has pretty much disappeared. But what good is a high school diploma if our children can't read? Like you, I imagine that you're incensed, like me, that several states have outlawed the teaching of critical race theory, watered down the teaching of African American history, and banned books that provoke critical thinking on a range of social issues. And I salute those who've responded with protest. But honestly, if we're honest with ourselves, what good does protesting only the banning of books? What good does it do if we aren't also protesting about the fact that our children can't read? What does it matter if Caste or Beloved, books that memorialize the treatment and experiences of African Americans in this country, are banned if our kids can't read them? The supremacist aspirational autocrats, those intent on upholding inequity and injustice, understand. This is why we've experienced in just the last year, the decimation of federal rights and protections tied to education. The dismantling of the United States of Education's Office of Civil Rights, with more than 1,300 staff layoffs and regional office closures, slowing to a near stop the investigation and prosecution of race, sex, and disability discrimination and disparate impact complaints in everything from curriculum and instruction to discipline and resource allocation. The elimination of the DOE's Office of English Language Acquisition, eradicating dedicated federal support for over 5 million English learners, many of whom are Latino. Proposals to rescind equity provisions within the Individuals with Disabilities Act that address racial disproportionality in special education. And the censorship of curriculum materials referencing slavery, Native American history, and racial equity, which advocates argue diminishes student engagement and psychological safety for students of color. This is why the reinstatement of Donald Trump's 2020 Title IX rules that narrowed the definition of sex to biological classification. Why executive orders calling for the elimination of DEI programs in schools and universities, resulting in the cancellation of scholarships, internships, and support programs specifically designed for students of color. And why federal grants in excess of $300 million for colleges serving Black, Hispanic, and Native American students have been labeled unconstitutional, putting greater financial strains on students of color. This and the ending of student debt relief programs are expected to disproportionately increase the financial burden on Black and brown families and students. This is why the current presidential administration withheld or delayed more than $10 billion in K-12 funding, including grants for teacher training, mental health providers, and COVID-19 relief. And the president's fiscal year 2026 budget proposal sought a 15% overall reduction in education spending, including the elimination of Head Start, which since the 60s has provided early intervention and support for low-income families. Why his proposal included the consolidation of 18 specific grant programs for vulnerable populations, such as unhoused children and rural students, into a single block grant with 70% less total funding. And the elimination of subsidized loans for low-income students, the reduction of Pell Grant amounts for part-time students, and new lower limits on graduate student loans. Why? All to prevent the attainment of education, the building of knowledge, and in turn power from those who've been oppressed multi-generationally. Without meaningful access to opportunities to gain knowledge, children from families with little resources and marginalized communities grow more powerless as they mature, and their ability to think critically is compromised, further compromised. A skill intrinsic to building knowledge, critical thinking, is the process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information. Information from social media, from all of these like stand-up news sources, many of which are fake. The lack of the ability to think critically has you believing things you shouldn't. Do you hear me? They want to withhold your ability to think critically. The ability to help you think critically, to help you see and appreciate that in our society, immigrants are not the problem. Blacks in corporate America are not the problem. Students who receive student loan forgiveness aren't the problem. And toddlers and 3-year-olds receiving early childhood education and supports are definitely not the problem. Rather, it is the advancement of persons in any of these groups that is the problem. For advancement threatens the systems that work to uphold inequity in social, economic, and political power. This is why they are playing politics with our children and their education. The most powerful tool we have when fighting injustice is education, which builds knowledge. For the greatest threat to those who hold economic and political power is the attainment of knowledge by those who don't hold such, and consequently, who don't hold power. As we are seeing and experiencing today, very much like our ancestors experienced during slavery, post-Reconstruction, and in the days and years leading up to and during the Civil Rights Movement, the impetus behind ongoing efforts to block Black people and other people belonging to long marginalized communities from acquiring education and with it knowledge is fear. Those with self-proclaimed superiority fear they will lose the power they've derived from it, and that those whom they have willfully and intentionally marginalized, that they will gain it, that they will gain power to fight back and to dismantle structural economic deprivation. Structural economic deprivation. That's a term that I've coined to essentially help you appreciate the constructed normalization and enabling of systemic limitations on the ability of lower-income people and communities to access financial, health, education, and social resources that build and sustain wealth, thereby all but ensuring a socioeconomic strata with individuals, families, and communities living perennially in or near poverty. Structural economic deprivation is upheld through false narratives about deservedness and wealth. Who is worthy and who is not to live with dignity and economic freedom, and to be able to plan for themselves and for their families, and through classifications based on income, not wealth, all the while knowing that in these United States, wealth is what ensures economic security, not income alone. Structural economic deprivation is upheld with policies and legislation, such as the Big Ugly Bill, that cut in real time critical resources for low-income families, resources such as SNAP and Medicaid and the Affordable Health Care Act premium subsidies. By cutting programs, limiting eligibility for income support programs that prohibit savings, meager savings, by allowing executive orders that destroy education rights and opportunities for historically marginalized people, and structural economic deprivation by withholding, and I shouldn't say withholding, upholding, and letting to stand here in 2026, the federal minimum wage still today of $7.25 an hour, when annualized $15,000 a year. That is structural economic deprivation. Who in America, one individual, can live on $15,000? But they keep that minimum wage there as the baseline, knowing that that is what sets the standard for income supports, access to Pell Grants, access to housing supports, to keep a growing segment of our population living in or near poverty. That is structural economic deprivation. Voting restrictions, tax policies benefiting the rich at the expense of the poor, and so many more policies and legislation uphold structural economic deprivation. In today's world, education is just as, if not more essential for building knowledge, because what it helps to ensure is power over one's life, security, and freedom. Education is essential as a means to an end for purposes of attaining and maintaining economic security and well-being. And what I want you all to appreciate is that it's also essential as an end unto itself. You know, many people in communities of color, and I'm just going to call it, I'm going to call out my people, many of our ancestors, have seen education as the means to an end. You get a good education, you can get a good job, right? But it's essential just for life skills and preservation. The game that we sometimes take ourselves out of is continually learning and growing, building our knowledge so we can play in many different spaces. Well, today, if you don't stay an active learner with AI and all these other technologies, there won't be a tomorrow for you. We need to remember this. It is so important to stay engaged in learning. Dr. Dukes and so many other civil rights leaders understood the crucial role that education plays in transforming individuals, communities, and society. And that's why they fought for equality and opportunity in education. And what I want us all to appreciate, walk out of here appreciating this afternoon, is that we have to do the same. Being a better ancestor than descendant in these times requires that we all push back on efforts to minimize or far worse, in college and graduate school access for students of color and students with little or no income. By reducing eligibility and the amount that you can receive for loans for college and graduate school, they're essentially trying to keep us out of the game. Being a better ancestor is making sure that we stand up and we fight for access to loans and grants for our children. Being a better ancestor than descendant requires that we ensure that from grade school through grad school, our institutions of learning, be they HBCUs, public colleges and universities, private colleges and universities, teach and assist all students to be critical thinkers. Here in America, we have a habit in our universities and in our grade schools of just teaching to the test. Teaching the masses to teach to the test. And why? Because if you do otherwise, you can't send people to war. You can't have them accepting that war is the right way to go when you haven't put up the evidence to suggest otherwise. If you teach critical thinking, you can't have people saying it's okay to take food out of the mouths of babes, to withhold vital resources. So we, being better ancestors than descendants, we have to do the work as Hazel Dukes did to make sure that our children are being educated from grade school through grad school to be critical thinkers. Being a better ancestor than descendant requires that we all lift up education as not optional, but essential for economic advancement and human survival, helping to ensure the education of children, young and older, is arguably the most revolutionary and sustainable act of resistance in these times, for it builds lifelong knowledge and with it power. People ask me all the time, what should I be doing right now? Oh my God, I feel so helpless. Educate a child. Just take some time to educate a child, whether that child be 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. Educate somebody. help them to build the essential skills, to build knowledge, and with it power. That's revolutionary in this movement. That is radical resistance. When you gain knowledge, you gain power. Now, since the days when many of our ancestors were enslaved and denied the opportunity to read and write, we all have to appreciate that the effort to curtail their access to knowledge and power has been in full swing since the very beginning. We're 250 years into this nation's existence, but long before, they were withholding the ability to learn to read and write. It's what they're attempting to do today. But our ancestors back then pressed forward, and they made education and knowledge building the foundation of movement work. In these perilous times, I am ever reminded that I am literally and figuratively a child of the civil rights movement. All of us in this room are children of the civil rights movement. And as children of the movement, we are the beneficiaries of the good that resulted from the hard work, the sweat and the blood, the tears that were shed by its leaders and its doers. And as children and beneficiaries, we now are the burden bearers of this generation's civil rights movement. All of us are burden bearers. For as Hazel Dukes and other selfless leaders taught us, our work will not be done until all of God's children are free, until all have jobs, quality jobs, until all receive a quality education, until all are free of the burdens of poverty. As Hazel Dukes taught me, taught us by example, in perilous times, it is my burden, my responsibility, our burden, our responsibility to be better ancestors than descendants. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. We should say Dr. Fourth time coming around, Jennifer Jones Austin, for a powerful, reflective call to action, undergirded with the understanding that not only is knowledge power, but it has the capacity to break down systems and move us out, as President Monroe has for the entire college community. So fitting you've come. He wants every student to graduate BMCC out of poverty. That in and of itself is worthy of a round of applause. So we thank you for that call to action. We thank you for that reflection. I'm sure from where Dr. Dukes rests, she is mighty proud and pleased for what you continue to do and carry the work forward. We're going to ask now that, don't leave, we know some students have come. There's a reception to follow, and we have one more announcement to make. Can Stephanie come back? You've got to run? Okay, all right, but we thank you. We thank you for coming. We show you for being here. Now, we have one announcement. We want everyone to go upstairs right across the hall. There is a reception for you, for young people, our students as well. There is food for you. I'm going to ask Vice President Karen Wilson Stevenson to come join me at the podium. We have one important announcement to make for you and your consideration.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. As we shared before, this is just one of the ways that we have chosen to honor Dr. Hazel Dukes, Ma Dukes. She has been someone that we have all had the privilege, or many of us have had the privilege, to work with and benefit from in her advocacy. I know I had the privilege of working with her at the National NAACP X number of years ago in Baltimore, and she was definitely not someone with whom you trifled. and she held the room, she held the beyond the room, and she fought for so many things, and we are all the beneficiaries of everything that she touched. So to that end, we decided here at BMCC to continue her legacy by creating the Hazel N. Dukes Leadership Fund, Emerging Leaders Leadership Fund. And so we're asking for anyone you know to be able to contribute to that. It's available on our website. You can go to our website, bmcc.thankyou4caring.org, and you are able to contribute to the Hazel N. Dukes Emerging Leaders Fund. And that fund will support scholarships for students who are interested in pursuing social justice, much as Dr. Dukes pursued in her lifetime. So, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson Stevenson. Now, you'll find this information, friends. There's a QR code here. Now, if you believe knowledge is power, if you believe in the transformative powers of education, if you believe that part of education is preparing the next generation to lead, to serve, to grow, to break down, to build up, we need you to support this effort. This effort will go directly to the young women and men who are here at the Borough of Manhattan Community College seeking an education, not only for themselves, but for the communities they have been called to serve. So we ask you to support this very important initiative in the name and in the legacy of Hazel Nell Dukes. We want to show that knowledge is not only power, but it is impactful. So please, we thank you for your consideration. Share this with your colleagues, your friends, your family, your sorority sisters, and others. We want to make sure this is Dr. Monroe's vision that we're trying to bring to life, to make sure that the name of Hazel Nell Dukes is alive and well, not only in a lecture series, but for the young women and men who want to go forth and build a world that is equitable, that is just, that is multiracial, a true democracy. This initiative will help us get there. So we thank you for joining us today. We thank you for being a part of the inaugural lecture series. When you go upstairs in the Richard Harris Terrace, there is a reception that's prepared for you. So we want you to come and continue to network and enjoy and lift up throughout the rest of Women's History Month the name of Hazel Nell Dukes. In some way, find a way to carry forth her work, her impact, and her witness. We thank you for joining us today.